Snoop Dogg and D.I.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to Villanova Tip Time. I'm your host, Chris Notaro. Tonight is January 19th, 2022. It's a Wednesday, and we're here ahead of number 11 Villanova, welcoming the Marquette Golden Eagles into the Finneran Pavilion tonight for a Big East clash on what also happens to be Josh Hart jersey retirement night, which everybody in the Nova Nation is duly excited for. Tonight, we're going to talk about a bunch of things. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about Josh Hart. We're going to talk like normal, big things happening around college basketball. We're going to talk that beautiful Nova Butler game that we witnessed on Sunday. We're going to introduce Shaka Smart's Marquette Golden Eagles, and then we're going to talk keys to tonight's game. And we're going to get you out of here for the top of the hour as this game is airing at 8 o'clock Eastern Time tonight on Gasp, Beware, CBS Sports Network. I almost debated putting the logo in the corner of the screen because that is how much I, as a cord cutter, really dislike CBS Sports Network. I will spare you the diatribe that CBS is behind the times in the access to their content. They have not embraced that more eyeballs are a good thing. So they've made it as hard as possible if you do not have cable to watch CBS Sports Network. Your only options are, number one, a subscription to Hulu Live TV. Number two, a subscription or a trial, wink, wink, to YouTube Live TV. And then number three, you can use somebody's cable login to log in on a browser and watch CBS Sports Network on a browser, but that will not help you watch it on a TV like there wouldn't be an app. You could probably like AirPlay the browser to TV. I've done it before. Very inconsistent quality. Long story short, my wife is an absolutely amazing person and has already signed me up for a YouTube TV trial so that I could watch tonight's game seamlessly. So a couple of fun programming updates. Number one, really excited. I secured a VIP, basically a table. It's almost like a fractional suite at the Marquette game in Milwaukee in 2 weeks. As you know, that's right down the road from my Villanova Tip Time home base here in Madison, Wisconsin. So really excited to be attending that game in 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks from tonight at I think 9 o'clock Central. So that's going to be rough for all of you Eastern time zone folks. However, I will be there in person. Also, we're working on a few upcoming guests. That's going to include also some potential on-site correspondence from the Pavilion. It's a maybe. Really, really excited though about programming overall, and I think this six-game win streak, has got everybody feeling renewed about this team's ceiling. There was a lot of chatter especially after the Baylor and Creighton losses, about this team, having limited growth potential, yada yada yada. I am proud to say that Villanova Tip Time has needed no renewal, and I never went anywhere on feeling like this team had the ceiling to be there at the end of the year. So let's talk about Josh Hart a little bit. Of course, he was a 2016 national champion. He averaged more than 13 points a game across his 4 years. That's including his freshman campaign where he averaged sub 10 points. So overall, he averaged 15.5 points a game and 6+ rebounds a game for that 16 tournament team, that title team. He also, in his senior season the year after that, he made the leap to 18.5 points a game. So Josh Hart was a major baller for Villanova. He continues to be a major baller as he is a current NBA player for the New Orleans Pelicans. This is his second year there. He's averaging around 10 points a game for them. He started his career the 2 years prior with the Lakers, who drafted him. A couple of things I find interesting about him. He's a big video game guy, and he was also an early celebrity influencer in the NFT world. Got a couple of close friends that are deep into that whole space. I know a lot of people don't get it, but Josh Hart certainly does, and he's definitely got a future in the business side of that, almost assuredly, regardless of the longevity of his NBA game, which seems to be looking pretty good. He's probably the first of many jersey hang-ups and into the rafters that we're going to see over the next few years, just with the absolute extreme quality of player development that we've seen from Coach Wright and his staff over the last decade or so. You have to figure, you have to figure Ryan Arcidiacono, Jalen Brunson, and Mikal Bridges almost certainly going up into the rafters. You think maybe Phil Booth and Dante DiVincenzo too. I know Dante D left early, as I guess technically did Brunson and Bridges, but he was the most outstanding player in an NCAA tournament that Villanova won. So Arcidiacono, Brunson, Bridges, Phil Booth, Dante D, and then you've got Colin Gillespie and Chris Jenkins, who both own number 2. So maybe they can share it up there. That would be kind of cool. In any case, Josh Hart, well-deserved honor. Really excited to see him back home tonight, and wish him nothing but the best of success in his continued NBA career. So some noteworthy happenings around college basketball. Not a lot's happened since I saw you last. We last played on Sunday. It's only been 2 days. A couple of noteworthy things. Number 4, Purdue topped number 17, Illinois at Illinois in a double overtime thriller on Monday night. It's kind of a noteworthy matchup there. 2 teams that I think are going to end up coming out of the top of the Big Ten, along with Wisconsin. You had number 5 Baylor and number 7 Kansas both get back on track with solid Big 12 road wins in the time that I've seen you last. Baylor beating West Virginia at West Virginia, and Kansas beating Oklahoma. Then last night, of course, you also had number 18 Texas Tech taking on Iowa State. Texas Tech notching another huge big Big 12 conference W. But I think the highlight of the last few days for the entire Nova Nation was almost certainly what we watched on Sunday at high noon. Any of your NFL allegiances aside, you may have had a better or worse weekend event on top of this. But the Nova Butler game was an absolute delight. Villanova was up 16 at the half. I was guilty of expecting them to grind a, quote, workman-like, per a text I sent at halftime. Second half, to win that game, I was expecting somewhere between 15 and 20 points. And boy, oh boy, was I very happy to be wrong, as Butler was outmanned and outgunned in every possible way in this game. It seems like they really only knew how to play slow defensive ball, like a poor man's Villanova, which is a huge problem when you're down double digits plus, like pretty much right out of the gate. It was actually Villanova's largest margin of victory by winning by 40, 82-42, in the history of Villanova playing in the Big East, which is pretty wild. And it was, I think, one of the most remarkable things about it to me was how balanced of an attack it was. If you look at just the box score, as well as the kind of the general level of contribution from everybody. Your 3 stars for the game definitely were Justin Moore, Colin Gillespie, and Eric Dixon. You had 17 points from Gillespie, 15 points from Moore, and another really strong effort from Eric Dixon. How many times can we say that in a row in the show? The guy's just been showing up huge. Brandon Slater definitely still appears to be a step behind, coming off his ankle injury and still dealing with that ankle injury. So there's really only upside for him to get back to his early season form, with the rest of the roster clicking like this. It's buying him a little bit of time to get back there. Coach Wright was quoted, I believe, yesterday in his media session saying, from an injury report perspective, we're looking good to go. Slater's still not quite 100%. So maybe it's not quite time to call for the Slate-out breakout game yet, but it's coming. And, of course, Caleb Daniels has been super strong off the bench since his return from the COVID list. Another really strong game out of him, going 2 for 4 from 3 and adding 8 points on the contest. And then finally, I think what we were all excited to see was the young pups getting some run. Trey Patterson actually was able to lock down 5 points for himself, which is, I'm sure, a good confidence boost. And then you also saw 17 valuable minutes being played by Longino. I think you could argue about how valuable those minutes were in the context of this game, but they were super valuable in the context of sort of just putting more on tape, I guess, especially against a team that was, grinding out and still playing defense down to the bitter end, even though they were losing by 40. So where does that leave Nova's new ranking? It leaves us at number 11. I think we're still underrated. We are 1 or 2 in strength of schedule, depending on where you look. We're number 3 in both the KenPom and the net rankings. And we're 13-4 overall, with 3 of those losses being to then top 5 teams, and 6-1 in the Big East. So again, I don't know that you can pay too much attention to the AP and coaches poll ranking. It really doesn't matter. I think the KenPom and the net rankings are really what you want to be tracking more closely, and we're crushing it there. So let us stay underrated. I think we all prefer to be a little underrated than to feel like we're overrated. So let's now introduce this Marquette team. I think, the first thing to point out about Marquette is they're coming off of the Wojo era, and they've now brought in Coach Shaka Smart, who has been sort of a famous young coach, not so young anymore, making the rounds to a couple big programs, and now landing at Marquette as a Wisconsin native. This is a big deal for not only Marquette but people in this area. There's a lot of excitement and enthusiasm around this program, really for the first time in a while, and Shaka Smart is definitely driving that, especially with sort of the inspired early season play that we've seen from Marquette, and sort of flashes of definitely competing for a tournament bid. So they're 12-6 overall, and they're 4-3 in the Big East. They had key early season wins against then number 10 Illinois, who I think is a big player in the Big Ten, and they also beat Huggy Bears West Virginia. And they had close enough losses to Wisconsin and UCLA. I think both those games they lost by like 11 to 13 points. And like I said, they've really, I think, outperformed the expectations for what was supposed to be a rebuilding year. They really didn't return many guys at all from the Wojo era. It was basically a brand new team. They did lose their first 3 in the Big East, only to win their last 4 straight, including an absolute drubbing of then number 16 Providence. And most recently this past weekend against Seton Hall, which they did admittedly win by 1 point in the final seconds on a just absolutely terrible referee call that handed them the win over Seton Hall. Just a terrible foul call, just ridiculous contact initiated by, I believe it was Greg Elliott, and the ref gave him the foul call with like little to no time left. It was just a wild ending to a game. In any case, Marquette's one of the hottest teams in the Big East. They're coming in with 4 straight wins. That something something doesn't add up about this point spread being 12.5 in favor of Nova tonight. I know Nova's been absolutely crushing it at home, but it just feels like this Marquette team is definitely not a slouch by any means. So some of the players that you want to know, I think that list starts with sophomore forward Justin Lewis. He's leading the way with over 15 points a game and over 7 rebounds a game. I believe he's leading the team in both categories, and he's the only thing left of Wojo's Marquette, and he wasn't a starter. The rest of the rotation currently under Shaka Smart are all either transfers or freshmen. So, like I said, almost a transformer, right, of a completely new team from Marquette. Some names that you might recognize are going to be senior guard Darryl Morsell and junior guard Greg Elliott. Darryl Morsell is new to Marquette as a transfer from Maryland. He's currently second on the team, averaging just shy of 14 points a game. Otherwise, Marquette's top 5 scorers are going to be rounded out by freshman newcomers. So I think the most important thing to call out about Marquette and any Shaka Smart coach team is the Shaka Smart patented quote-unquote havoc defense. In the VU Hoops preview, Dan Reagan did a really good job breaking the game down. I've talked about it before. I'm a big fan of the VU Hoops game previews. And he broke down the matchup, and he did make an simile to the St. John's matchups last year, where we went in that first game. They were super aggressive with a press defense, a havoc-like defense, forcing a lot of turnovers, which killed us, and ultimately Nova lost that game. But in the second game, we stepped our defense up. We limited their stifling defense, and they were also ice cold, which helped, so we were able to take that second matchup down easily. The comparison is true. I think that is obviously, causing Nova fits, where Nova, on some of Nova's off nights, they've struggled with turnovers. You have to figure this is like the number one key to the game for this Marquette team. The other thing that's been interesting about them is they've been scorching hot over their 4-game win streak, including what would have been previously uncharacteristic 40+% from deep. So they've been absolutely making it rain, whereas in their losing streak prior to that, they were ice cold. So Shaka Smart's going to be bringing out this what I would expect to be stifling defense to try and disrupt Nova's rotation and flow. And if Marquette is shooting the lights out, then we are going to have to do the same. So some keys to tonight's game beyond what I just mentioned about turnovers there, with just really can't get sloppy. Double-digit turnovers raises the corollary of Marquette walking out of here with a stolen W. So that's an important key to this game. I think number 2, similar to something else I mentioned earlier, is we need to maintain that home court dominance that we've had this season so far. I think we're averaging 29-point wins at home right now. We really need to avoid the slow start in this game. The longer that you let this Marquette team hang around, they've been shooting very well, the more dangerous they are, obviously. Another is, can we see Slater get close to back on track? Everybody else in the rotation seems like they're clicking, at least all the starters, right? Some of the younger guys are getting valuable minutes. I think Brian Anton is looking better every game, even if he hasn't really emerged as a scoring threat. So the last piece that you're looking to kind of fall into place is for Slater to get back on track. His injury might prevent him from being quite there, but you have to be looking for either the Slater or the Brian Anton breakout game here sometime soon. And then the standing key to this game is going to be shoot 'em up, sleep in the streets always, and avoid the droughts. Like I said, especially with Marquette shooting hot lately, you have to figure Nova's going to have to play pretty decent offense today, at least bust up that Havoc defense, and there's no better way to do that than by just nailing shots and kind of breaking their confidence early and running away with this one. We are spoiled in the Nova Nation, right? So you can't expect every game to be a blowout. Again, I was a little nervous about tonight's game being like a 12.5-point spread, thinking that might be a little steep. So for all of you gamblers out there, I do think that that's a big time stay away. Alas, I think right now we're probably going to wrap it up before to give you enough time to get over to CBS Sports Network. I'm hoping that they're showing at least part of the Josh Hart festivities for even a few seconds before they tip this game off. But as we've said, I have no love lost for CBS Sports Network programming. So again, flip over there somehow if you're a cord cutter. God be with you, and I wish you the best. So grab your beverage, hit the restroom, find your favorite seat on the couch, and ladies and gentlemen, it's tip time.